Good afternoon, good evening. We're live here at Greater Atlanta Christian Academy with the first annual Atlanta Grand Prix. And I'm here with my wingman, Tony Dunning, and, well, with the architect of this event, Paul Doyle. Paul, how you doing today?
I'm doing great.
So are you surviving, man? You've been out here since this morning, right?
I'm barely hanging on, but I'm surviving. I'm excited for it to get started.
That voice is like going out.
Yeah, almost gone. Almost gone. It'll be gone by tomorrow when I hop on a 17-hour flight to China.
Wow. All right. So who do you have running in China?
Tomorrow I've got quite a few. Blessing Okabari's over there. Gert Cantor, Olympic champ in the discus, is throwing over there. Quite a few good athletes.
Got it. That's in Shanghai, is that correct?
Yeah, Shanghai tomorrow and then Beijing on the 21st. Got
it. So who do we have coming in this event today?
Well, tonight we got some serious superstars. I think across the board all the events are strong. Some of the big names you'll recognize: Jeremy Warner, former Olympic champ in the 400 meters. Lolo Jones, America's sweetheart in the 100-meter hurdles. We've got the best athletes in the world: Ashton Eaton, Trey Hardy. Of course, gold and silver in the decathlon at the Olympic Games. Ashton, the world record holder. So quite a few across the board. Even women's 400 hurdles, we're just talking about that event. You get Tiara Brown as the top seed there, 6th at the Olympic Games. But the slowest PB in that race is 55.71. So good quality field from lane 1 to lane 8.
Well, I talked to the track coach here today, and one thing he says is, well, you know, this meet's going to blow away all his track records. And none of his high school athletes will ever have an opportunity to achieve some of those marks in his eyes. But who knows? Now, question for you. What was the, kind of the impetus of putting this meet together? I know we've always talked about it. And
Yeah, I mean, we've been thinking about it for 100 years, and, since 96, there hasn't been a good quality professional track meet in Atlanta. We talked about it for all these years, and finally there was a gap in the schedule. Athletes needed a race, and he said, you know what, let's just go ahead and put on our own meet, and it's just sort of snowballed from there. So, with 2 months preparation, this is what we've come up with, and I think the crowd's going to see tonight a really good show. I think it's something we'll definitely continue, and in future years we should put a lot more behind it. And I've been really impressed with the athletes getting behind this event, and they all seem to be really excited about it. And really happy to be here.
Well, I know we have a good high school field here too. So, Tony, I know you've got a couple names there. So, what are we expecting today on the track from the high school perspective?
Well, first of all, Ian, we want to thank Paul for coming here, putting this event here. It's something we've been looking forward to since '96. Something of this caliber. We've got some really good high school talent here tonight. Georgia has been rich for a number of years in high school talent, one of the best in the nation. We routinely come out and do great things at the national level with the high school athletes. Actually, a dozen or so Georgia athletes were on the Olympic team last year. So, we do some great things. We've got a couple of great athletes today. Malaysia George, who recently set the 400-meter state record and ran the second fastest time in high school state history here. She's going to be here. We've got some great young kids, some great young sprinters. Cassandra Hall's a freshman who's going to be doing some great things over the next few years. She's going to be here showcasing her talent. Got LSU signee Jada Martin. She's here. The boys 1,500, oh, wow, that's going to be a very exciting race. I'm not going to get into that one just yet until we get a little bit more time, but those kids are going to really put on the show here today. A couple of great relays, 4x1, 4x4, some really good teams that could go 3:10, 3:12 here today. So it's going to be a real good show.
So no prognostication here. I thought we were going to call you the new Jimmy the Greek. We're going to call you Tony the Dunning or something,
I think we're all winners here. I think all the kids who line up here today are going to be winners, and I hope they look at it like that. So, and just put on a great show and get ready for their future. They're going to have a big summer. A lot of kids getting ready for college in the fall and competing at that level. So everybody's a winner here today.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think this inaugural event is going to set the stage for track and field. Paul, what's the future of this? What do you envision in this event next year and the next couple of years?
Well, I certainly see this meet just getting bigger and bigger. This weekend is a great weekend for for track and field and to put an event like this on. You have out in Oxy in California, all the distance runners go there. So I think we can make this the sort of sprint capital meet, and really bring in a lot of sprinters and hurdlers here and showcase their talents. And I think that's, Atlanta has such a great track following and a great track community. I think this is it's really important to have an event like this and to showcase that and keep the sport strong in the community.
Okay. Well, hey, we look forward to it, and it's now 6:11, so track time. We got about 48 minutes or 49 minutes before we get to see some of the great races. So, Paul, Thanks for putting this together, and I guess we'll be talking later on after you get your voice back. So, thank you a lot for coming.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bags by Coach Joe is proud to announce that we now carry a full line of track and field equipment. We are working in conjunction with MF Athletics. Go to our website and view our new Puma catalog at www.coacho.com.
We are live on the Ian Dubé Show. Welcome. I've got Joanna Atkins in the hot seat. Joanna, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Man, I am wonderful. So it's like coincidence here that every single time I go somewhere, I run into you. So I ran into you last week at Georgia Tech. I ran into you in Philadelphia.
Yes.
So it just seems like, you know what? We're going to get you on the air now. You may not remember me, but I remember you as a youth athlete coming through the program.
Yes.
Initially, you didn't run for Monica Sapphire. You ran for which team?
Actually, I ran for a lot of teams. I started off with the Golden Wings.
The Golden Wings,
then
okay.
Georgia Striders.
The Georgia Striders.
Boys and Girls Club.
Boys and Girls Club.
Georgia Elite. Georgia Lightning. And then I ended up with Coach Monica with the Sax Fire.
So you were just like a track hopper.
Unfortunately, I was.
Well, I understand. It happens until you find the golden magic bullet. So what got you in sport? How did you get into track and field?
Well, it started when I was 10 years old. I went to Rock Chapel Elementary, and the bus driver, her husband was a track coach, and she had passed out flyers. I got one, and I brought it to my mom, and next thing I know, I registered, and I've been running ever since then.
Okay, so that was your original track team. So what kept you in it? For instance, teenage girls, they either stay in the sport or just fall out of the sport completely. What kept you in it?
Well, what kept me in it was my parents. They pushed me, and I really didn't have an excuse to not run. I tried many events. I did long jump and high jump, and I had my girly moments. I didn't want to do this, but I never said I didn't like it. And so because I didn't say I didn't like it or love it, they kept pushing me to do it. But it's been many times I wanted to quit.
What would you have done if you quit?
I don't know. I probably would have missed it and eventually got back into it. But, I will never know because my parents wouldn't let me quit.
You know what? I got to give a big shout out to the parents because it's without them, they kind of set the tone and they dictate. Because I was talking to a coach when I was driving here. He said they were doing, this was their practice. They warmed up. Mm-hmm. They were running it was a speed day, so they were doing 30s. They did about 10 of them. Ooh. The girl went home and quit. Oh. Now, what really shocked me was that the mom supported it. It was like, man, it's a little bit too much. It was 300 meters worth of volume, and the mom supported that. That was just like, that is ridiculous.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. But big shout out to mom for keeping you in the sport.
Yes.
So now here you go. Big girl goes to high school.
Yes.
Now it's a different it's a different flavor.
Yeah.
Now, what was that like for you?
High school was fun. Only did 2 years. It was fun. It was different. It wasn't as much pressure because it wasn't a lot of summer people running it. So I was able to have more fun, just go out there and run and win some meets. But I had a good time. I bonded with my teammates, and I still miss them. I keep in contact with them. And it was a really good experience with team.
Okay. Now, fast forward. Big girl goes to college. She goes to Auburn University. Free of charge, of course, right?
Right. Full ride.
Full ride. So that means that no student loans.
Nope.
All right. So you come out in this world debt-free.
Yes.
Now you go to Auburn, what was that experience with Coach there?
Oh boy, Auburn was definitely a transition. Most people say that like college is like the best days of your life,
right?
And it was to a certain extent, but for me, it was more of a learning experience of shaping up my character and dealing with different people and different coaches. And so it really prepared me for the future, what I'll see in the world of track and field.
So that experience, you traveled.
Yes.
But you actually traveled when you were in a junior Olympic.
I did, but it was way different because in college it was every weekend. And then we'll travel starting from Thursday or Wednesday. And then they say we're a student athlete first. And so we're missing all these days of class, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to stay on top of my class so I can stay eligible so I can run. So that was a big challenge of managing my time and talking to my professors and just being proactive.
So you had to manage that time. So that was something different than...
It was, but I take my school serious. And so I wanted my teachers to know who I was, and I wanted to have the best opportunity. I wanted to do what I had to do on my end so the teacher can help me later, because they really do appreciate it when you make yourself known to them.
Fast forward, big girl graduates from Auburn, a illustrious career, of course.
Yes.
And now comes into the professional track and field ranks.
Yes.
How did college prepare you for the track and field ranks, or did it?
College prepared me well for overseas because my college coach, he took me and a couple of teammates like my junior and senior year, and we actually went overseas to run. So we got that experience of...
And who's coaching you?
Who's coaching me now is Michael Anderson.
Okay, Michael Anderson.
Yes, he had went to Auburn University, ran 400 meters, and he ran for his team, Jamaica. And so I'm still in Auburn training, and college, having that experience in college really helped me out a lot, because going overseas is completely different. It's a whole different world. It's like college don't even compare to that because it's an individual sport. In college you're so used to your coach telling you when to warm up, how to do this, when to do this, that, everything like on his timing. But when you're a professional, you got to check in, you got to see when you got to go back, you got to figure out, well, how much time I need to warm up and what happens if the meet's behind schedule and stuff you got to do. It's all on you. And so it wasn't necessarily a hard transition, but, I felt well prepared for overseas.
So when you went overseas and noticed that they drive on the wrong side of the street, they have kilometers and meters instead of miles.
Yes. They speak in their own language.
And they speak a different language than we speak.
Yes, it was a little rough trying to get used to it because, I'm used to saying, here, on your mark, you're setting the gun, and then they speak in their own language, and I'm like, what? And so I just had to learn just to go with the flow, They speak, we get in our mark, just kind of go with the flow, like, oh, it's time to get on my mark and get ready.
Well, I would imagine that was probably a culture change. It's different than Georgia, right? It's not 285.
No.
It's the Autobahn, right?
Yep,
so now, what's the most beautiful place that you've got a chance to run?
Most beautiful places, I like to say so far Jamaica and Cayman Island.
Cayman.
And Greece. Greece is really nice.
So what was it that set those cities apart?
I like
than going to London or somewhere like that.
I haven't been to London. That's the deal. I haven't been there yet. But I just like the scenery, be able to walk around and see the different culture and see the water, in Georgia or Alabama. I really don't get to see the ocean like that. And so just to be able to see that, just to see the sunrise and the sunset is really beautiful.
So different experience, different. So what's next for you? Where do you run next?
Next, I'll be going to New York next weekend. Be running the 400 meters. I believe that's the Adidas meet, so I'm ready to go. I'm excited.
So you're going to run in New York?
Yes.
And then where do you go after New York?
I'm not sure yet. It's one meet at a time, so just focusing on New York, and I run a good time, and then I'll sit down, talk to my agent, and see where's next.
Now, who is your agent?
Juliet Campbell.
Juliet Campbell,
yes.
Oh. So a former runner, obviously.
Yes.
So that's kind of different when you have a runner kind of giving you the advice. So Juliet, being a pretty good athlete herself
Very
back in the
good
day.
athlete, yes.
One of the greats,
Yeah.
loved, great athlete watching her run. So you're going over, play one meet at a time. Now, I talked to Winston Riley earlier. He's another agent. We talked about what's that life like as a person that has to deal with an agent now, along with the coach, and then stay satisfied in the sport. How do you deal with your agent? In other words, your agent has to get you an event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, the better the events, the better they pay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're not running, if you're not ready, you're not eating very well.
Yep. Well, my agent, she's doing a very good job getting me into meets. I appreciate her so much because last year I wasn't running that much. I wasn't getting the meets. I guess you could say I wasn't eating.
You weren't eating, okay.
I wasn't, but I ran the times, but I wasn't getting the meets. So I'm very pleased with Juliet, getting me into meets and, negotiating on my part and making sure I'm taken care of and, doing what she has to do. Because, like you said, the bigger the meet, the more money they can get paid, I can get paid. And so as long as her priority is getting me into meets, I'm happy and I'm satisfied, and she exceeds my expectations.
Okay, well, thank you very much for spending a little time with us, and good
Thank you
luck
for
with your
having me.
season. We're proud of you, being from Georgia, obviously.
Thank you.
We look at you, and, I bet you there's a lot of young ladies watching you.
Yeah.
And this interview will be up on the USATF Georgia Facebook page, and you can actually download it, so look for it.
All right.
And I'm excited to see you run, and good luck this year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Many small business owners soon discover that one of their major keys to success will be their advertising. They may have the best service or the best selection, even the best prices in town. But without some word on the street promotion, the traffic may not be there. Contact us today. We can help. 404-444-3747. That number again is 404-444-3747. We've got your voice.
Good afternoon, good evening. It's nightfall here at the Atlanta Grand Prix. Today is Friday, the 17th of May. And May has turned out to be one of the great track meets in Atlanta, in Georgia, in the state. And I'm here with Mike Spino. It's Dr. Mike Spino, who officially now has his certificate to plaster on the wall that officially makes him a doctor. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing fine, Ian. This is really, as you say, it's a momentous occasion in Atlanta. There's been, a lot of meets that came and went. The Atlanta Classic, I remember years ago, High School Classic, and of course the Martin Luther King Games a couple of years. But this has the feeling and the quality of something that's going to be really different and significant, and it's wonderful. And congratulations on all the work that you've accomplished and done.
Well, Mike, I look at it as a team. It's not me. It's really the team, and I think there's a group of people that really want to see athletics succeed here.
I totally agree with you. And the people that have been doing this for a while and have a deep love for it, and a night like this encourages you and keeps it going.
Right, exactly. And it just, I think it's just putting the talents together and having the vision just to go deeper and deeper than we normally would go. People are always telling you can't do this, you can't do this. I mean, it's really interesting for me because I never envisioned myself sitting behind a microphone at a track meet at the top of the curve and talking about track and field.
Right, exactly.
And I love watching ESPN, and then, I flip through my million cable channels, and I see the NBA has 3 or 4 channels, hockey has major channels. All the major sports have a channel and a presence, and we don't have that presence. And what I love about this is you set the tone, you set the tempo of having live broadcasts at an event,
Yes.
And it's real simple. The technology is there. I'm sitting here with a really small device, and we are broadcasting via broadband.
Yeah. Well, the history of track and field is not completely like that. I can remember the 1960s, 8 indoor track meets in New York City, sold out every time. 40,000 people in the Coliseum in Los Angeles for the USA Russian meet. But somewhere along the way, we lost our way. You know, we didn't know where we fit into college athletics. We didn't know if we were the same as the baseball team or the basketball team. And, you know, the 11-lap indoor track didn't seem to be appropriate anymore. So we've gone through a lot of changes, but there's been a lot of good brainstorming, especially the last few years, in saying how we can popularize track and field, just like the interviews that you're doing, that we can create personalities that people follow, and we can have experiences where people get the quality of what we have. That's why this is so unique. Sometimes people don't want to go to track meets because they take all day and all night and thousands of people running. And Paul Doyle, who put on this meet, understands that in Europe you go to a meet, it's 2.5 hours, just the same as a soccer game. And that's what's attractive to people, and will get the fans out.
Does your business need an industry voice? If so, contact Oliver Jackson, I Got the Voice, at jazzlicks2001@yahoo.com. We can give you content for promos, voicemail, documentaries, movie trailers, podcasts, and more. If your business needs a voice, feel free to use mine. Contact Oliver Jackson at jazzlicks2001. That's JAZZLICKS 2001@yahoo.com.
It's all I wanna do, all day and night, that's cool. And I just want all of you to do with me too.
You know, Ian, I'm just thinking as we just watched this world-class 100 meters that we haven't seen in Atlanta in a long time is the education of the spectator to talk about peaking and a season. And it's very different from basketball or something else. So what we're really doing is giving people a flavor and a taste of the elegance of track and field.
I think this is just a great flavor. And it kind of rotates in some of the things that we're planning to do in the near future. And you talk about brainchild. So let's talk about the psychological aspect and the psychological training. You and I are going to put together this camper clinic coming up in 2 weeks here. And let's talk about that, Mike. What are your thoughts there?
Well, you know, Ian, I it's such a pleasure to talk to you, and we find new things every time we talk. I know I work with a colleague at Princeton on brain research in sports and where things come from our brain. And we giggle about our conversation of you being a world-class long jumps coach, and that the idea of where the jump comes from in your brain got to be 1 billion years old. But, you know, every athlete says 90% of doing well is mental. But a lot of people don't know the techniques and the training of how to bring your mental into the game, and how to, as you say, how to get your mind on the top ring of the podium. And that's what our workshops are about. I think that each time we talk to each other, we learn more, and we're going to give people the very simple way, as they're in their training program, how to combine the mental preparation and the physical at the same time, so that the training season also involves being mentally ready. And we see the athletes today as they get on the starting line. They're ready. They've poised themselves. They've been through this before. There's a way to do it so that it's you know that you're going to be at your best when you want, and if you feel a little bit off, you can recover. And all the things that we know about how the mind and body interact, we're going to teach people in a very simple way. And this is really the next frontier of all sports, especially track and field. We see athletes that perform at their best all the time. As coaches, we can see the different aspects of mental capacity. I just wrote an article about my cross-country team that won the our first national championship, is about our fifth man, and how a fifth man can just be forgotten by the stars in front and treated as a second-class citizen, or brought in and cherished and cared for. And we won a lot of national championships because we had team spirit, and our fourth and fifth men always did their best at the championships. And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to instill through these workshops, is how to be your best when it counts, how to know you're at your best, how to peak yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally at the same time. And it's the new frontier, and I think it is the frontier of sport.
So now, Mike, you're obviously. Do you ever get those juices that want to come back and coach
and run?
Exactly. Does that?
Yeah. In fact, I just got it again. Like a lady I trained, she was ill for a while, but she's now back, and I'm going to be 70 in a year and 3 months. And you start thinking, let me see if I do this and I do that, and then I can start. It never leaves you, and it's hopefully not only 70, but maybe even after that, I'll still. I want to race again. I ran near a 4-minute mile. In the late 60s, I ran with Prefontaine and those guys. I trained under Igloy, the great Hungarian coach, and of course with Percy Sarity, who trained Herb Elliott. He was my mentor. So those things are inside of you. All day today, I was like excited coming to this track meet, as you are probably. It's just in our genes, in our DNA, and so it's the flavor that we bring. It's the flavor that we bring to our work and our deep satisfaction from it.
Well, hey, I've been sitting here as we've talked because, we got the best seat in the house. Obviously, we're sitting right here at the top of the curve.
Yeah.
I can see the whole race, uninterrupted, which is kind of unusual because when I was picking the site strategically,
Yeah.
I wanted away from the crowd, obviously, and I wanted to be able to see the track. And I was looking at the rituals
Yes.
of each athlete
Yes.
to see what they do. And then, you think about it, what is it they're thinking of?
Right.
What mental techniques are they executing as they get ready for the next race of their life?
That's right.
And it's it's always great to sit down and talk about that and see how we can get them in that zone.
Yes.
Where that view of focus narrows down to that small pinhole level.
Yes.
And then when you see it and it's executed perfectly, that they know immediately, intrinsically, that they've executed everything the way that they've trained to do it.
Yes.
I've always wanted to, is there a way to measure that? How do you measure that? Could you put some electrodes on their head to see what the
there's
stimulation
more and more
is?
ways to measure it and know exactly where. But I was thinking the same thing today. I saw Jeremy Warner. He's been through so many experiences, Olympic Games, national champion, on the middle of the field, back and forth. And you could just see with his movement, he still loves it. He still feels the thrill of movement from it. And here we have one of the greatest 400 meters ever run in Atlanta, right here in the next second. And it's incredibly exciting. The hush of the crowd.
Exactly, all that good stuff. Hey, Mike, thank you very much
All right,
for
Ian.
spending a little time, and I look forward to doing that workshop with you and working with you in the future.
Yes, as always.
All right, cheers.
Would you like to have your business promoted with your ideals and verbiage? Well, we can help. We can customize your business to say what you want. Voiceovers to fit your business. Send us an email at jazzlicks2001@yahoo.com.
All right, good afternoon. Hey, still out here at the Atlanta Grand Prix and watching a lot of great track fly by. But in the hot seat, we do have Mr. Throws Extraordinaire, Adam Nelson. Adam, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ian. How are you?
Man, I can't. Man, if I was any better, I'd explode right here. So they'd probably charge you with the weapons of mass destruction charge because I just exploded. That's how good I am.
Just
today.
being too much Dubé right there. That's
Man,
what it
I'm
is.
just trying to be too much me, and it's you can't contain me sometimes. But actually, I'm really proud to say that I've got one of the greatest throwers in the world sitting right next to me, who's represented obviously Georgia very well as a Georgia-based athlete and a collegiate athlete. And now, did you do Junior Olympics when you came up?
I did. I actually did. I think it was Junior O's in, what year was it? 1990, I think. I don't think I did very well, as I recall. But there were a lot of guys that were a lot better than me back then. I think it was in North Carolina when I did them.
Now, what was a defining moment for you?
Oh, geez. At which point in my career?
At that junior level, typically kids are like this. Hey, I don't do well. I'm going to quit.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So I got into the shot put basically because I got cut from the baseball team in 8th grade, and I went out for track and sort of over time gravitated towards the throws. And it was actually my sophomore year when I actually started competing with the older guys. We were in I think Region 8A, AA, in 1991 it was, and we had the top 2 guys in my region. One of them was already at my school, and the other one was from Franklin County. And those guys went on to win 1-2 in state, so I didn't get to go to states that year. But I think that was the first time I realized that I could possibly go a little bit better than the next year, winning state championships my junior year and my senior year, and in both the shot and the disc. I think I realized that I had something going on.
Okay, so now off to college.
Yeah.
You're like any other collegiate athlete. You came in. Were you a full ride athlete?
No, I probably should have been, looking back on it. If I had known I was going to throw the shot put for 17 years or something crazy, I probably would have gone back for an athletic scholarship. But I went to Dartmouth, and they don't actually have athletic scholarships.
Okay, so now you go to Dartmouth. Now, what's that defining moment? You're getting ready to leave the collegiate ranks, and you say, I can do this professionally. What was that?
Well, actually, my freshman year at Dartmouth, I think I sort of had a glimpse of that because I went to the junior national meet that year and ended up going on to Junior Worlds and winning the Junior Worlds that year. But then my senior year, I won NCAAs. And I kind of timed it right. I think if I would have been like 6th the year before, or probably 10th 2 years before that. But it whetted my appetite. I really realized I was like, man, I was the #1 person in college this year. I can go to the next level, and that was probably the next stepping stone. And then it just took 3 years. It was time and patience and persistence and consistency. Like you have to, when you want to be in an Olympic Games. It's a marathon. It doesn't matter what event you're in. It is a marathon.
Now, who are the big guns? Now, here you are. You're this hot shot senior, win the NCAA, and now you're stepping into that professional realm. And the guys that are already there, they've already established themselves. And here comes one of these now college punks trying to knock us off the perch. Now, who were the big guns back then?
Well, back then, Randy Barnes was still competing. C.J. Hunter. Kevin Toth, Jim Doring, the young guy at the time was actually John Godina, Andy Bloom. We had a bunch of big guys, a bunch of huge guys. I remember going to my first national championships, really where I thought I'd be competitive, which was in 1999, actually down in New Orleans. It was about 145 degrees. And I'm a lot smaller than those guys. And my mom was sitting in the stands, and she was sitting in the stands with a bunch of other people that were there to see. I don't know what they were there to see, but they weren't really there to see us at the time. And some of them started going, "Who's that little bitty white boy out there?" and it was really comical. I mean, it really was funny. And my mom turned around. Well, see, he may be little, but he's really strong. And I ended up getting 3rd that year, and that was probably that moment where I was like, man, I've made it. And that was definitely the thing that kept me going on through 2000.
So that was the defining moment. So now here you go. You're competing, and you go make your first Olympic team. What year?
In 2000.
So here you are in 2000, Sydney, and now you're against the best guys in the world. It's not just those guys that said, "Who's this twerp that came in?" You're competing now. What's your mindset there? I mean, everybody's goal is to win, but what were you thinking?
It was a weird year because I had my breakout year that year at the international level. I went from throwing 67 or 67 feet or so almost 68 feet, to 72 feet at trials and setting the trials record. So going in to the Olympics, I was already branded as one of the favorites. And so it kind of shifted my view on how I needed to prepare. And I really I put a lot of pressure on myself. This is not I wanted to go and enjoy the Olympics, do sort of what I call the Olympic tourist stuff, but
Right.
it was all about competing. So, I went there looking to win. I wasn't there just to experience the games. I was there to walk out with a gold medal.
Okay, fast forward. Next Olympic Games, 2004. That's in
Athens.
Athens. You leave as thinking that you're the silver medalist. 10 years later or so, now you come back in and thinking you've won the gold.
Yeah, so it was actually kind of a weird thing. Just this last year, I remember 2004 was an interesting competition. We were actually in the ancient stadium in Olympia, Greece. It was the first time anybody had competed there in like 2,500 years. And it was just a really amazing event, and I'd been leading the whole competition. In shot put, we start off with 12 throws in the first 3 throws, and they cut that down to 8 throwers for the last 3 throws. And I was leading the entire competition till the second to last throw of the competition, because as the leader, I go last. I had the last throw in the competition, and the guy that had been second for the entire competition tied my best throw. And so I knew walking into the circle on that final throw that I had to throw farther in order to win, because the tie-breaking rule goes back to your second best throw, and his second best throw was better than mine. So it's one of those moments that when you're a kid, you sort of dream about, or you reenact, you set it up. I got 3 seconds left on the clock. He steps back, he shoots. It's good. So it was kind of like you couldn't write this moment up any better. And I got in the ring, man. The world, we had about 20,000 people just to watch the shot put there that day. And they were going, it was just loud and it was hot, and I can remember just sweating so bad, and just the dust from the field. I mean, this is an amazing venue, but it was really just a remarkable place. I get in there for that last throw, I'm like, I'm going to crush it. And I would just, boom, just ripped it, right? And I fouled. And I didn't think I fouled. And it landed about 1.5 feet farther than any other throw that I had that day, and it would have won hands down, no problem. And I didn't think I fouled. I didn't feel it. The red flag went up. I protested. And then as soon as I saw the video, it was pretty clear. And I apologized to the ref for blowing up. But it's one of those moments where you train for 4 years and you had that one opportunity and it's so close. And I thought I had that gold medal. And then all of a sudden, I don't. And it was one of the most bittersweet moments of my life. It took me a little time to gain perspective on it. But I'd lost out on 2 gold medals in 2 different Olympics by less than 3 inches. That's how close it was. I won a silver in 2000 and then a silver at that time in 2004. And then I find out 8 years later that the guy that beat me was actually taking drugs. And it's sort of one of those sensations where you're like, okay, that's great, but it's so that memory, that moment played such an important role in my next 8 years that I'm not sure if I would go back and trade it in some ways, because that made me who I am today. I went on the next year to win world championships, and I went to grad school and ended up getting second in 2007 world championships. So anyway, it had a huge impact on my life.
So now you're officially retired now, right?
I actually officially submitted my retirement papers 2 weeks ago.
Okay, because didn't I hear, I don't know if this fact or fiction, but didn't I hear somebody had a positive drug test? Wasn't it Sean Crawford that had a positive drug test after he said he retired, but, I guess he didn't officially turn in the paperwork.
So he did not have a positive drug test. He had 3 missed tests.
Missed tests, right.
And so it was a filing failure. And this is one of the big problems that we see in the doping and anti-doping agencies is the rules aren't really written for the athletes. They're written to their terms, and I don't want to get into that too much, but my point is that here's a guy who hasn't competed since the Olympic trials. He's had 3 missed tests, and for whatever reason, after the first or second one, he didn't go back and fill out whatever paperwork. Well, you can't. Now he's being penalized for not taking action on something, on a sport, or being part of something that he'd already given up. And the unfortunate thing is, here's a guy who's one of our more celebrated sprinters in this country, and he now has that attached to his name. They don't say tested or this is a ban because of filing.
Right, exactly.
They say this is a ban. So
and the tragic part, it leaves that black mark on our sport. Now, fast forward, here you are, you've stepped away from the sport, from the athletic venue. So what's Adam Nelson doing now?
So right now I'm actually, I do two things. I am running the Athens Orthopedic Clinic's new sports performance facility. It'll be opening up in August. We're launching some pre-opening activities, pre-opening programs starting in June. We're pretty fired up about those. I'm also the head of our Athletes Association, the Track and Field Athletes Association, which is track and field's first global effort at organizing the athletes to advance some athletes' rights issues that are usually ignored.
What are the, I talked about, I was talking with Hawthorne Wesley and Bill DiPrano, and they talked about Jimmy Carter signing the Athletes' Bill of Rights. So that was kind of the first step. So what is the Athletes Association doing to enhance the Athletes' Bill of Rights?
Well, actually enhance the Athletes' Bill of Rights specifically, not a whole lot. What we're trying to do right now is educate not only the athletes but also the general public on some of the things that actually happen from an athlete standpoint. These contracts that were written, whether it was the Ted Stevens Act or even the IOC Olympic Charter, were written at a time when the sport was truly amateur.
Right.
And so it was a voluntary effort to make an Olympic team. That's not the situation anymore. And it hasn't been the situation for the Olympics since 1984, when they actually made $200 million or so off the LA Games. And that fundamentally changed the way the IOC looks at things, the way all the different governing bodies underneath the IOC look at things, because they realized that they could monetize the value that the athletes hold. And what's worse that's not a bad thing, but the athletes have been left off those tables, those discussion tables. And so these systems that are created to sort of perpetuate and grow the Olympic brand are done without a whole lot of valid and independent athlete input. And so we're trying to educate people a little bit about that, educate these athletes, and let them know, like, look, you have a lot of room to grow here. And you just have to understand what the real issues are.
Now, where does that education process start? Does it talk to the NCAA athletes that are potentially considering the professional realms, or does it talk to the professional athletes as they enter into the professional realm?
We would love to have more contact with any athlete that aspires to go into the Olympic or professional sport of track and field. The way to contact them, it's very difficult. The NCAA regulations limit a lot of contact. You have to come in, and if you want to do it in an official capacity, there's some paperwork that you have to fill out. But the reality is that, we are trying to push it out that we're a resource. The Track and Field Athletes Association is a resource for these athletes to turn to when they have questions, from everything from what should a contract look like? What do I need to look? What does a profession look like? How do I get from point A to point B? Are there good agents? Are there bad agents? Are there good coaches? Are there bad coaches? How do I deal with it? Every issue that an athlete really needs to understand. The answers are already out there, and we're trying to aggregate all those in one spot so that they understand what they're doing when they make some of these bigger decisions that they may not even realize they're making.
So in the professional ranks now, what's the percentage of the athletes that the Athlete Association represents or participates with?
We have approximately 300 members in the athlete mix. Most of those are from North America. That does include the Caribbean countries as well. So we're still trying to make it more of a global effort. But the challenge that we face in developing a global track and field athletes association is that there are so many different definitions of what a profession is. For track and field. In our sport, you have people that work full-time as a track and field athlete who make less than $15,000 a year or no money, and those people will be on the Olympic team. Or you have people that again do this full-time and make multiple multi-million-dollar contracts or have millions of dollars every year. So we have this huge disparity. So defining what a professional track and field athlete is one of the most difficult challenges that we have.
Now let me ask you this: what is the three top focuses of the athletic association. What are the three top focuses or initiatives?
The first would be athletes' rights issues. So who owns your image? Who owns you when you're at a meet? And that's a big issue, and we don't necessarily understand how big of an issue that is. The second would probably be health and safety issues. So coming to a competition, making sure that we standardize the experience of what a professional track and field is for the track and field athlete. And the third, well, I don't know if I can wrap it up into one third, but the third probably deals with more about it's going back to the athletes' rights issues, just different focuses. There are some things that are more about generating more income for the athletes and the limitations that the governing bodies put on you that limit actually your ability to make money. And there are other things that are where our rights aren't represented in specific issues, like the anti-doping associations when they're forming their rules. They don't really negotiate or they don't come to a mutually agreed upon contract of what that relationship looks like. And so the other is more of like a legal issue, I would say. So you have athletes' rights, it's